Welcome back to Season 5 of the Sober Motivation Podcast. Join me, Brad, each week as my guests and I share incredible and powerful sobriety stories. We're here to show sobriety is possible, one story at a time. Let's go. In this episode, I sit down with Tanya to talk about what it is really like to get sober and stay sober when your journey isn't linear. Tanya shares how she grew up with a stable home and little exposure to alcohol, but still struggled with insecurity, belonging, and wanting to feel cool, which made alcohol feel like the solution. What started as binge drinking and partying progressed into DUIs, escalating consequences, and the painful truth many people discover: once the addiction wiring is there, moderation feels like torture. This conversation goes deep into relapse, grief, identity, relationships, resentment, and recovery, plus the power of community, faith, service work, and learning to build self-esteem from the inside out. Tanya also shares how she stayed sober through devastating loss and what helped her reach 1 year sober. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode. Brad here. Thanks as always for hanging out. I wanted to mention too about the Just Between Us podcast, the kind of Sober Motivation 2.0, with just me sharing different stories and different thoughts. I want to invite you, and for everybody listening to the podcast, I want to give you a one-time offer. $37 gets you access to the podcast forever, as long as it runs. How long that's going to be, I don't know. But this is my space to share more in-depth stories that there just isn't time to share on this podcast. And I want this to be about the guest stories and us kind of collaborating together to share their story. A couple of the episodes I've got so far is how it got started, when alcohol gave me relief. Everything starts small. First rehab, part 1, shortly after rehab, and untangling ADHD addiction and dopamine. Those are a couple of the episodes that are out there right now. This offer is going to be for the first 10 people who move on it. I'll drop the link down in the show notes below so that you can sign up for it. Once you do, you'll get an email with the information on how to add it to your Apple or your Spotify or YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. But it's not a searchable podcast. It's a private podcast. And there's reasons behind that, and I talk about it too in the first episode of Just Between Us. Huge shout out to Shaz. Thank you so much for sharing your story on the last episode. Also want to mention too, if you're looking for some community, some more connection, for some more support, for some more friends, come and check us out on the Sober Motivation community app. We have 15 meetings every single week and an incredible group of people. We all met up in Toronto. We're planning our second in-person meetup this year, actually in August, and it's going to be in my hometown, Waterloo, Ontario. And we got a bunch of people who are hyped up to get involved with that and come and hang out. We spend the weekend together, do some activities, and it's a ton of fun. It really brings sort of this virtual world into the real world, I guess. And it's a beautiful way to just get to know each other, make some new friends, and just further the connection. Let people know they're not alone on this journey, and together we can do so much more than we can on an individual basis. The first 30 days are free. And I see a lot of people, I'm guessing, from the podcast go over there, check it out, kind of do the sign up and don't go all the way through with it. And I always wonder, where are those people at? And I host 3 meetings a week inside of the app. We bring different topics, and it's just a lot of really good people. So if you're just getting started, or even if you're into your journey, we have people join that are 500 days sober and 300 days sober, and some people that are really early in the process as well. So all are welcome. It's about furthering our connection, building community, staying sober one day at a time, and having an opportunity to live our best lives. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a message over on Instagram. I'll drop both of the links down in the show notes below. Would love to see you on the podcast or see you in a meeting soon. Now let's get to Tanya's story. Welcome back to another episode of the Sober Motivation Podcast. Today we've got Tanya with us. How are you?
I am fantastic. How are you, Brad?
Yeah, I'm good. All things considered, I'm doing well. Glad we could finally connect. So what was it like for you growing up?
I had a great home life growing up. When I look back on it, I honestly can't say there was too much wrong with it. I grew up upper middle class, so to speak, and I had a great mom, dad. I have 2 brothers. We were actively involved in our church. I was very involved in the youth group. Never, ever saw my parents drink a day in their life, I don't think. And we never had alcohol at home. So for all intents of purposes, I have no idea how I became the alcoholic I am today.
Yeah, which is interesting. I mean, over 200 and I think 25 episodes. I would say it's pretty close to down the middle if I had to sort of take a guess about somebody who shares a story similar to yours where there isn't anything that necessarily stands out like clear as day that went on in those earlier years that would, I mean, maybe make sense if that's the right way to put it, of where we end up. I mean, very similar for me. I grew up, my parents, I found out later that my stepdad was drinking a bit, but I never ever saw my parents drunk that I can remember. When I would visit my dad, that's the only time I would really be around alcohol.
Right.
The kids would kind of run wild and him and his buddies would, drink around this little table in the backyard and they would order us pizza. But I didn't really pick up on it because I wasn't exposed to that very often. So yeah, it's always kind of leaves me wondering, how did things play out the way they did? Anything from your childhood, any good memories that you have?
Honestly, I think most of my childhood was good memories. My family and I, we would go on a vacation a year. We tried to. And so we have a lot of just we had a big family. My dad was one of six, my mom was one of seven. Everyone had 3 to 4 kids. On my dad's side, we were like every 6 months. And so we were really close, tons of cousins, tons of family time. The biggest thing for me is that I definitely was insecure, very insecure. I'm a late bloomer for that. And I was always trying to fit in. And so I think that definitely made the biggest impact for, why when I found alcohol, I was like, yay, I'm cool. So I am like a poster child for doing things to look cool. So I had my first cigarette at 18. And I literally did it to be cool. I didn't know how to light it. It was about 6 months of smoking till somebody goes, "Are you inhaling?" It's like so embarrassing. I'm like, what? And I'm like, is that why I can't get them to light? Like I literally go around the corner before I saw my friends and go like this and like didn't know. And then unfortunately I figured it out later. But yeah, I think that I wanted to be the cool kid or the bad kid. I always found the down and outers, wherever I was going to school and would like latch on to them. And I think I always thought like, I'm going to help them. But really, I just was like out of my skin, I guess, and so that's probably like the biggest part of it. But from like a home life and being loved on and all that, I mean, that was great. I just couldn't find my way until I did.
Yeah. Maybe like a sense of belonging in the world?
Yeah. So my dad also passed away when I was 17. So my senior year. And I distinctly remember thinking nobody's going to blame me if I start drinking. Like this was very traumatic for our family. He was he was the staple, the glue. So I grew up, my grandparents were pastors, all my uncles were pastors, and my dad was like the business mind guy. And he was CEO and president of his company at the age of 31. And so he was very much, I guess, the glue. In fact, actually, I was watching another one of your podcasts and I forget the guy's name, but he was talking. I'm like, that's my story. Different, but that's my story. Stop sharing. I'm about to share that same thing about his mom who had passed young and being the glue, but it was so true. And so, of course, there's the trauma from that as well. And it just like, it was a combination of things. I'm going to college. I'm finally feeling comfortable in my own skin. I feel cute. Guys are looking at me. Alcohol is introduced. Plus, I'm going through the mourning and the grief of that. And it just hit me
Yeah, everything there. And that's a lot too. I mean, your experience with your dad and then also that transition to college and now you're kind of finding your way and maybe connecting with people. I mean, when I first started drinking, that's one of the things that stood out to me most at first is like I was connecting with people, vibing with people. I was talking with girls in ways that I'd never talked with girls before and getting phone numbers and people were interested in. And I was like, I mean, this is the greatest thing ever. You know, it's so weird because I waited, you know, it was after high school before I started drinking. I say I waited, like it wasn't a conscious decision. I just wasn't, when I kind of draw it up, I really wasn't, you know, the coolest of kids maybe to be invited to the parties and to hang out with sort of hang out with sort of everybody letting loose. Right. Like, and I'd gotten in trouble, you know, also. So I was on probation. So I used to have to go and meet my probation officer and do, interestingly enough, like drug samples and stuff. And I was like, I just don't want to mess with this. I kind of knew better at that level. That was part of it. You know, I had maybe 5 or 6 rules I had to follow that was clearly on there. So, and my parents never drank. It was never around. I did drink once. My parents had like vodka or something and everybody at school was talking about it. Oh man, we had all the vodka and orange juice and everything. And that was great. Everybody was giggly. So I took this vodka bottle down and I had a swig of straight vodka and it was disgusting. It was disgusting. So I was like, okay, like this is not for me. And I just moved on with my life. But when I did, you know, getting into the drinking in the college days, it was just like, man, I am finally home. All the insecurities kind of fade away. I did anyway. I felt like I fit in. I felt like I had a purpose. I was just like, man, I belong. This is the coolest thing ever. Right. And it sounds like, you know, relatable in a way to kind of what you're sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing I don't relate on is so many people go, ooh, it was disgusting. And granted, I think my first drink was a Zima. So, I mean, that's my generation, 99, 2000. A Zima, you don't know what a Zima is?
No,
oh my gosh.
I have no idea.
I guess they would be kind of like sparkling or whatever they are now. Like, it was like almost like Sprite, I guess, flavored. Okay, so it's in a bottle. And then you would put Skittles in it and you tap it and it foam all up and you chug it down.
Okay,
no, totally aging myself. Okay, so 90s kids, 80s, 90s, they'll know what I'm talking about. But I loved it. I don't recall ever drinking alcohol and going, that tastes like crap. And I loved the taste. I loved the effect. And I was even thinking too, I don't even recall even my very first time when I'm 99% sure I blacked out. I remember the party, I mean, it's vague, but again, I don't even remember waking up with a hangover. My body tolerated it exceptionally well to a fault from the beginning.
Interesting.
Again, until it didn't.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Is there anybody else in your family too that had struggled with this at this time or no?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, I mean, again, when you have a family as large as me, my mom always says the gene pool is deep and wide. So, you know, I think she had an uncle that died of alcoholism. But again, a long time ago, was it alcohol? You know, who knows really the story. My brother has 8 years clean. And so he struggled with that. But again, it was very much in alignment with when my dad passed and him trying to fit in as well. So we see it. And then there is definitely some extended cousins now that, you know, struggle with that as well. But like the immediate family and like my aunts and uncles, I mean, it's not too prevalent. There's other things that you can say, okay, you know, maybe some OCD or issues with eating that all kind of fall in line with that addictive personality. So I can see where it comes from, but not necessarily like, again, it wasn't environmental. So maybe a little bit of,
Yeah. Interesting. Where do things go for you in college? I mean, do things pick up for you fast? I mean, people kind of share a couple different variations in this phase here. Things pick up quick, or it's maybe a slow progression. And what'd that look like for you?
Yeah. So I ended up just being a big partier. I can look back and see how it affected me early on in different ways, but I was never around the clock drinker. I was just partying very much like all my peers were. I would probably go out almost every single day, but I, at that point, never drank at home unless, again, I was having roommates and we had parties and stuff like that. But it was never excessive in that standpoint. But when I look at my 20s, I think back and I'm like, oh, you know, because eventually the hangovers did kick in, and poor decision making and just different circumstances where like it was definitely a problem. But I still don't think I was alcoholically drinking. I think I was party binge drinking. And again, by all standards, if you do the test by 100% from the beginning, I would check multiple boxes. But, you know, my career was taking off, and, you know, I was showing up for work for the most part. Again, I might have been really hungover or leaving early, but I was still there. And so it wasn't until, so I got married when I was 25, 26. So I kind of went through my really crazy, I moved to California for a year. That kind of got really wild. And then I came back home, and it was really the start of my sales career. And I met a nice young man and quickly got married. And then when we divorced, I remember saying I can never date anybody else unless I'm sober. So I always look back on that moment, like some part of me knew that there was a problem, but it was more like who I showed up as drinking, and I was not a very good human being at that time in my life. So it was there in my mind that there was a problem.
Like what year would this have been ish estimate?
2007, I think we got married. 2009, divorced.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Around that time, you're kind of seeing sobriety.
So exactly 10 years later, because I don't think I started drinking until 99, early 2000. Because again, I didn't drink until I was out of high school as well.
Yeah.
So.
And then things kind of picked up. And then you share that other part too, which I hear so often, I think is so relatable as well, is it looks a lot like our peers. Whether that is that everybody's drinking that way, or that we've consciously or subconsciously decided to surround ourselves with people who are drinking or hanging out, you know, doing that. That's what I always think when I look back at college. I used to tell myself, I mean, this is what everybody does. And now when I look back at it, I'm like, dude, there's not what everybody was doing, man, at all. It's just what I saw, what I wanted to see maybe.
Yeah, you gravitate 100% to the people that are like you, or you want to, again, drink the same. And I look back to, so when I was 21, I was hanging out at this place frequently. And I remember going, okay, Monday is this, like Tuesday's industry night, Wednesday's karaoke, you know, whatever. And I had a day. And then I was like, Thursday's my rest at home day, or whatever it was. I can't remember. But it was a joke that you could call Rock Bottom. I don't know if you guys have missed that place. Anyways, great food. And you could ask for me and I'd be there. But like, why would my friends call and ask for me if I'm with my friends? And I started thinking, wait, I wasn't with my friends. I was with bartenders and servers that are working, acting like they're my friends. I mean, they probably were my friends, but I'm just going by myself. But saying I have people to talk to. So, maybe I wasn't drinking the same as everybody else.
Yeah. Well, that was the name of the place, Rock Bottom?
Yeah, isn't that funny? I never even thought about that till just now. Because it's not even really a bar. They had a bar scene, but it's actually just a really great restaurant.
Oh, okay.
Best chicken and shrimp pasta of my life. I love that place. And now they're gone.
It's gone. Yeah, my goodness. Yeah, I was like, is that the name of the restaurant, Rock Bottom? That's interesting.
Brad, that has never processed in my mind. That should have been a sign. It was a projection of my future.
There was signs. The signs were there. My goodness.
Oh my Lord.
Even when you mentioned that too, there where you look back too, like maybe things were a little bit different. I remember in the early days, I knew things were different, but you can realize, I think, that things are different. I did anyway, and still not be interested in making a change. Like I felt like I was living on, like there was a pendulum, and I knew there were consequences to drinking. but it would swing so much further the other way. Like when I was drinking, I saw so many benefits and experienced so many benefits. And then the negatives, it was just kind of maybe swing a little bit until time goes by. And then it's like, okay, it's swinging just as high, if not higher to the negative consequence side as potentially anything I'm sort of getting out of it or experiencing it. But even when I look back, you know, people would go to sleep. I had this cocaine run too in college. So, you know, people would go to sleep, and then it's so weird to look back on all of it now. I have three young kids, but we would kind of go in and whatever and get our stuff, and then they would go to sleep and I would pretend I was sleeping. And I would be like, okay, that's the night, right? And I would have the stuff with me, and then they would go to sleep and I would pop back up like at the party and just kind of, do this. And then I remember, like not clear as day or anything, but I can remember myself thinking like, dude, this is weird. Like, this is really weird because to me, when I look back now, I'm like, okay, those are kind of what we refer to maybe as quote unquote normies. Like they partied hard, but they also knew when to shut it down and then when to carry on once Monday came. I mean, they were straight A students and they did what they had to do. And then they would maybe join another party 3 weeks later. And I always wondered, like, how do you guys not party every night? Because we had the same thing, right? You have the Taco Tuesday, Tequila Thirsty Thursday, Sunday Fun Day, blah, 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 everything. And I was just like, I was so excited to just get out there and kind of forget about the world in my life. But I didn't connect those dots at the time. Like I had no idea of the escape that I was, involving myself with. How do things look like for you moving forward?
Well, I was going to say one more thing too. I feel like I think I deserved it. Like I struggled so much trying to fit in growing up. I bounced around. We never moved. I just went to a bunch of different schools, always trying to find where I fit in. So there's this like, I struggled. This is my treat now. People think I'm cool and people, I deserve it. And then I also deal with FOMO, sadly, even to this day at 44. It's so sad, but
that's not sad.
Well, when you think about it, it's like FOMO, like, come on, I have a beautiful life. Like I shouldn't feel like I'm missing out on anything. And I've worked really hard on that in the recent years. But yeah, back then it's like, you don't want to go home because what if tonight is the night that something big's going to happen and it's going to be epic. I can't miss that. So anyways.
All of that sort of track of thinking too, every time that when New Year's came around this year, I have a few people in my life. I mean, they lean in heavy to drinking. What that looks like for them is for them to decide. But it's like every time at New Year's, like, I mean, they hit you up and it's like da 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 da. And I was just thinking to myself, that's how I used to live. I wanted to hang around till the lights turned off because I thought I would miss something. Now in my life, I'm just like, thank goodness I am not out there doing that madness, calling people with recklessness and all of this stuff. So that is interesting. Is it relatable at all to you, like identity getting attached to it? Because I hear that a lot. It's like kind of party and drinking and having fun and that life.
Yeah.
Is that?
Absolutely. Again, for always just trying to figure out like how to be accepted or cool or whatever. What did they say? Like even the negative attention, at least it's attention type of thing. Yeah. And so I so vividly, and I was thinking about this earlier when we were talking about the taste of it. I remember being at my buddy's house and I think it's like the gold flake. What was the gold flake? Again, it might be before your time.
Goldschlager?
Yes. And I remember I could take more shots than the dudes and still be functioning. And I loved that. Loved that identity and being able to just, be kind of known as a little bit of the wild child. That was like my internal child. Just, like I just wanted to be cool and fun and rebellious and all that. And this kind of comes more from like a relationship standpoint too, but I very much think like a man and I have for a while. I'm very stoic, I guess. And that probably actually happened from after my dad died when I saw everyone crumbling. I took on that as I will be the rock in times of struggle. And so that kind of, I think, partially affected how I interact with people moving forward. And so I just love the fact that I guess I was a player. I can do what I want, nothing bothers me. So I had like
Yeah.
these two identities. I'm just like rock on, party hard. And again,
Yeah.
it was that entitled piece that I really felt like I deserve it. I never got boys before. I'll get whatever I want, whoever I want. And because I'm also the
Yeah.
cool chick, I'm not crazy. I'm not burning your car up if you do something stupid. I hung out with the boys and
Yeah, that's interesting too. It's kind of like finding your way, like finding what is going to work and maybe bring you comfort too, like at a different level for your life. And then how was school? Like, did that come easy to you, that part of things?
no. So I always struggled in school. I think it was undiagnosed ADD in hindsight. ADD mixed with insecurity. So if I had what the kids have today, I don't know how they're not all straight A students, but my brain would just shut off. So I would process absolutely nothing that I heard in the classroom. And then when I want to ask a question, I was too insecure and shy to raise my hand until I actually got to college. And I took my first business class, and two things happened in that class. I got my first 4.0 or A, and I was told I must have been a class clown in high school. Obviously, it's
Were
stuck with me to this day
Were
that
you
I
a
felt
class clown in high school?
no, I didn't talk. I
Oh,
was
no.
so insecure.
Okay.
So that it just shows you that was like my first or second quarter, at college.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I found my calling, business. I'm very good at that. I keep getting distracted with my nails. Go Hawks. We're playing this weekend against the 49ers. So I had a shout out for that. Uh, Hopefully by the time this airs, we've won the Super Bowl. But anyways, so lost my train of thought thinking about my football team. So
Talking about
class
that.
clown. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So business. I finally figured out where I fit in the world, and I was starting my career, and I was doing very good. And that also created a lot of bitterness inside of me because, as I said earlier, my dad was business minded, and I never knew how to fit. And that would probably be, I guess, a little bit of the childhood trauma. I'm the only girl, middle child, and I didn't feel like my dad and we had a good relationship, but I didn't feel like he invested in me as he did my older brother with like, where are you going to college? What's your career? What's all that? And then I figured out, oh, I'm supposed to run businesses. I'm supposed to like take over the world. And now I don't have my dad. Now I want to talk to him. Now I need his mentorship. Now I need his resources and his connections to help me go further in life. And so that added this whole new bitterness and hurt in that situation. And so that also furthered my discontentedness in life and more drinking.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that too.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of bringing us back up to speed, sort of say in the story here. After your divorce, like how did things go? You kind of shared earlier too, you had sort of that glimpse of sobriety or I should be, or sober for
Yeah.
relationships, how do things look moving forward?
Yeah. So shortly after we got divorced or I moved out, I moved to Seattle. And speaking of New Year's Eve, I said I wasn't going to go out that New Year's Eve because I did not want to get a DUI. And there was no Ubers at the time. And so I stayed home and I worked out. I remember being at the gym in my apartment complex. I'm like, well, look at me go, making good decisions. So I don't know why, but I just felt like there was just going to be a lot of cops out. And so then 8 days later, I got a DUI. So,
8 days later. Oh, okay.
yeah. So I stayed home on New Year's Eve and then got my first DUI. And that got dropped to a reckless. There was some issues with the blow and goes at the time. And I had to do, I think, an 8-hour class and some community service. And that was it. And I still remember, I tell the story a lot, sitting in that 8-hour class, fast forward 7 months, and I'm in sales at that time. So I'm making good money and they said, why would you reoffend? Why would you do this again? And I raised my hand and I said, not strong enough punishment. And I swear I almost got mobbed. Everybody looked at me like, what? What are you talking about? And the lady goes, I've never heard that before. Like, why would you say that? And I'm like, well, again, I make good money. I paid $5,000 for an attorney a while ago. I've already gotten a commission check to bring that back in. I did this class and that's it. That was it. And I didn't learn my lesson at all. And so fast forward 5 years from the divorce, and I'm really partying now at this time, meeting people that were, as bad as me or worse. And so I'm doing it a lot. And I end up getting my second DUI. And this time it was a lot worse. I went around a roundabout and I just didn't finish that roundabout and hit a light post. And called my attorney again and I said, okay, what do we do? And so he put me on a deferred. I got a deferred for that. And that was the first time I guess I had to walk into AA or whatever. But I still didn't learn. So that was in August. And for the next 4 months, I went crazy again. And I actually got an intervention from my family on Christmas Day. Because my brother seen me the day before, she's like, hi, she's hanging out with some loser, like what's going on? Or she just seemed off, didn't know. And I showed up late to Christmas. And then I said, I don't feel good. I need to go straight in and lay down. And when I woke up, my family's like, what's going on? And I already knew I had to do intensive outpatient starting in January. So the manipulator that I am, I said, okay, let me look into some programs. So my mom now knows kind of, we still haven't really talked about my DUIs, but if she watches these podcasts, she's going to know. But yeah, so that's what brought me into AA and I loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. So I got sober for the very first time ever, December 28, 2012. And again, ego or whatever, but I'm like, I'm not going into the new year drinking. I'm going to start now. And I did. And then I pink clouded so fast. And I'd also just recently got a new job. I felt like I had the dumb part of the story, but I was all over for that previous year and then finally got back in. So I'm doing incredibly well in sales. I'm sober and I'm just having the time of my life, like sober. And fast forward 6 months, I think I'm healed, Brad. Why would I not be healed?
Yeah,
mind you, I'm only doing IOP. I haven't got a sponsor. I don't work steps. I haven't done anything besides just taking alcohol out. And I'm like, I think it's about time I start dating. Because remember 5 years ago, I said I wasn't going to date anybody until I'm sober. So I met my son's dad. And I think I drank within a month and we got married in 5 months and that chaos started. So what were you going to say?
Yeah. Just going back. I mean, the DUI, like the first one, didn't really seem like it changed the course a whole heck of a lot, which it's interesting, right? When I hear this, I got in a whole lot of trouble. How I dodged that, I have no idea. I have no idea how I dodged that part of everything. I mean, I got caught for probably 92% of things I did, but I dodged that. But I hear people all the time, right? If this happens, of course I'm going to quit. If that happens, of course I'm going to quit. Once I have kids, of course I'm going to quit. Once I get that job or we get that new house or I get that DUI, of course I'm going to quit. Or I don't have a problem because I haven't had X, Y, and Z happen. Maybe yet, maybe not. I don't have a crystal ball for the future. But that didn't, at that time, kind of provide the motivation for you to like plug in. But then you have this other one. Was the IOP there mandated because of the second DUI or no?
Yeah. So 2 AA meetings a week and then 4 days IOP for like 6 weeks and then once a week for a year or till the end of the year and then once a month for year 2. I obviously, once I started drinking, I realized how I could forge those slips and all that stuff. They can't come back and get me later. Can't just kidding. They hear that like you are our shining star, and that's the thing. Everyone's like, if only they could learn from you. You know, when I like
Yeah.
graduated out of that 5 years later after being off probation, I remember the judge was like astounding, and I was probably sober at that moment, but there was many times in between I was not. In fact, one of the things I say is I developed my actual alcoholism in AA because I really don't think, like, if I compare myself to other people, I think that where I was at that moment, anything could have changed, and maybe I would have just never drank again, and all that's,
Yeah.
like, again, that's not my story at all, but I'm just saying, like, at that moment, I could have stopped and never. If I was anybody else, that was my point. If I was anybody else, I might have been able to stop and then just be like, wow, I just partied hard for 12 years, but then I got married and grew up, and now I just occasionally drink with my friends. But
Mm.
that's definitely not what happened to me. And my son's dad never went out and was pretty depressed and would drink at home. And that's what introduced me to drinking at home a lot and around the clock.
Yeah. So this was like 2012.
Yeah,
Eh? Or
2013 actually. Yeah,
2013. Okay.
2013. Yep. So
Yeah.
we met in June, or went on our first date in June, and then we were married by November. And by the next year, April, May, I mean, it was bad.
Yeah. From drinking. When you look back at like the relationships that you were getting involved with, like, is there any different things that you're maybe like looking for today in a relationship or would be?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, one, I've grown up a lot and I've done a
Yeah.
ton of work around that. Um, One thing that still kind of rings true today is that most men drive me crazy after like a day. They really do. And so, unfortunately, if you don't drive me crazy, I feel like it's meant to be. And so, even when all the red flags are flagging, I'm like, but I enjoy being around this person. And so, I have to work extremely hard in that situation, which is why I've pretty much been single for the last year, is because that's my one thing, my one character defect that has taken me a very long time to work out. But I also, again, I've grown and really got grounded in, my relationship with God.
Mm.
Just looking at that chaos and looking at my young son and not wanting to bring that around him anymore. But my story didn't end with a second divorce. I ended up falling madly in love with somebody I knew since childhood, and he was in the program. And again, you live and you learn, but the red flags were right there. He's in sober living in California. I have 8 months. I'm coming out of my divorce, 8 months, I think. And we just randomly reconnected on Facebook and instantly in love. He's moving up and we're in love and it's so great. And we drank together the first time we hung out.
Really?
So,
Wow.
yeah, like,
Okay.
and I was very involved in AA at the time, but
What were your thoughts going into that?
going to that relationship or that even that weekend.
Even like that weekend, I mean, were you thinking of drinking
Yeah,
or did?
no, not at all. So him and his sister have the same birthday. And she was my ride or die back when I was 20. We were roommates. We were crazy together. But she had calmed down a lot. She had kids and stuff. And I said, again, in my brilliant mind, why don't you fly up and we'll drive over and we'll see her and surprise her because she doesn't see me forever. And he goes, well,
Mm.
there's going to be drinking around there. And I said, I'm fine. I said, as long as you're not drinking, I'm good. And not to pass blame to him, we had talked about this a lot, but we get there and they don't have even water, right? It's like, okay, I need something to hold in my hand. I need a Diet Coke. So we go to the store and he goes, should we get some beers or do you want to get some beers, and I looked at him and I go, what? I thought we weren't drinking. He goes, oh, never mind. I don't know why I said that. I go,
Yeah.
oh, well, you planted the seed and it ain't going to go anywhere now.
Yeah.
And I remember coming back, and I guess kind of my brother-in-law, his brother-in-law, like an hour later looks over, goes, and he just met me, goes, I thought you just talked about being sober. Yeah, not anymore. And then the next
Yeah.
day, I'm already having a beer immediately or whatever it was. And he looked at me. And this is a perfect example of somebody who, I guess, when they drink, you might think that they drink alcoholically. But the next day he goes, that sounds disgusting. And I thought, how can you not drink after you drank as much as you did last night? There's no way. And he's like, ew, I'm like, get that away from me.
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh, that's weird. You're weird, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of it. I mean, that's, yeah, I mean, I feel like sometimes we try to like figure out, oh, where did everything go wrong? But I mean, kind of hearing your story there, it's like, hey, you went into it with this mindset, and then it's just how quickly things can kind of shift, right?
Yeah. Well, and again, it goes back to, so his name was Travis. He was 5 years younger than me, maybe 6. And when our sister and I were roommates, I mean, he was in high school. I didn't actually really know him very well. It was just, I hung out with her and her older brother. But Travis was cool. I didn't go to his school, but he was cool. He was the football player. He was really smart, had good grades. And so even as a 21-year-old at that time, I knew Travis is cool and he's popular. So you fast forward 20 years. And in my mind, even though I didn't go to that school, but my childhood trauma mind still is like, this is the cool kid. So I was enamored, right? And so if Travis says, let's have a drink, I'm partying with the cool kid. Plus the nostalgia of being around Kelly, I hadn't seen forever. Again, it's like all that stuff. I would have been 100% fine not drinking that day. But once somebody said something and I got thrown off, I wasn't prepared. Me and my sponsor at the time talked about it a lot. I didn't put the right parameters in place to be protected. And again, I just got sucked in to his cuteness. And yeah.
So where do things go for you from there?
Okay. So we end up, again, dating, falling in love. So that would have been very end of 2020. I did the thing where, okay, so he ended up moving up and he goes to live with his sister, which is about 2.5 hours away. So then it became only when I go see him on the weekends, I can have some drinks and I'll be fine. And I'll leave it there. And that lasted like 2 visits. And he called me one time and I was home. Oh, and another thing too, I blamed my ex-husband a lot. Like, it's your fault. I'm the alcoholic that I am now because you drank around the clock and you didn't really work. And then I was working from home. So now I'm drinking around the clock. And that's when you made me a real alcoholic. But I figured I was just miserable. And if I'm with somebody that I'm happy with, that won't happen. So this is the very first time that I drank without being able to stop by myself. And I was like, okay, well, shoot, I'm happy. I'm really good in my life. My career's booming. I love being the mom to my son. Everything's perfect. And I still find myself blacked out drinking in the morning. So,
yeah. So at this point, you're drinking in the morning. Then this is kind of during the lockdown and all that pandemic days too, right? Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So everything's shifting at home, and things changed up for a lot of people. It's so interesting this time of life, and that time of life for a lot of people. I pick up on sort of. I mean, maybe there's something to this and maybe it's just in my own head, but it sped things up for a lot of people. I mean, for better or worse, I think what it did was showed people that there was maybe more here as to where the process maybe could have lingered on for another decade, sort of a slow burn, but it exposed it maybe sooner rather than later because you're at home and it was like, okay, we don't really have the coping skills to navigate all of this in life and everything that's being thrown at us and all of the uncertainty. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
around us is like drinking happy hour, and like a lot of people too, like they'll kind of, I've noticed over the years, they'll kind of engage in those little games or whatever of like, hey, let's kind of be sneaky and stuff. But like everybody's not going to drink the way that we do, to where it's like when we start, it just keeps
Mm-hmm.
going and going and going. So it's almost like for the people that it does catch, or the people that it did catch, it went
Mm-hmm.
a lot further, and then the boundaries got blurred and it was like, okay, I used to start after that noon meeting or after lunch, and then it became 11, and then, oh, well, what the heck is 10, and you call quits a little earlier. Just seemed to really scale back just to kind of be wide open. What do you
Yeah.
think?
No, I definitely see that in other people. I will say that my alcoholism at that point, I guess I could have elaborated a little bit more with my 7-year marriage, but it was when we drank, it was around the clock, and then we get sober, and it was weird because it was very cyclical. I had in a journal, it was like April 17th, 2018 or 17, 16, April 17th. It was like always, it would escalate, and then we'd be sober all summer, and then something, a vacation or whatever. But we weren't ever working a program, and that was the other thing I was going to kind of touch on. But early on, I never really fit in. I mean, I didn't have any friends and stuff like that. And then when I got divorced early 2020, I was like, okay, I'm going to go all in. And now, he's not in the picture, so I can make friends and, do all this stuff. And so I showed up and went to like a whole new area of meetings. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's young people. This is so exciting. And that lasted about 30 days. And then the lockdown happened. So I didn't, I was doing the Zoom, and I really was doing the deal, but that shifted too. And then again, fast forward, I could say I had COVID and not show up to a meeting. If, like you could kind of say anything. You could say I have a
Yeah.
cold, and so, that was where, it was just hard. I was finally ready to plug in and do the deal. And it just wasn't really available, It's not like
Yeah.
a big part of why I relapsed, but I feel like, it could have possibly made a difference if I was going to meetings every day and had a big circle of friends and all that kind of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, like that in-person connection, and
Uh-huh.
making friends, and then doing the other stuff, coffee and outings or seeing a movie or whatever, stuff you do, right? To help you stay on track. So, I mean, a big part of this stretch, what I'm getting from it, correct me if I'm wrong here, is it's sort of like checking things out, AA here, but then just other sort of like, I don't know, dry time or just sober time of not drinking, but maybe not plugging into the self-development community
Right.
steps. What was the experience there where you're like, okay, I'm sober, but maybe not working on other stuff too? And maybe you were, but like, do you
Uh-huh.
notice a difference between that time of sobriety as opposed to like the stretch that you're on now, where you're at with things of like being more fulfilled or anything?
Oh, big time. I always am a little cautious about how much I say online about my son's dad. 'Cause he's still my son's dad, but it was very controlling. And I wasn't allowed, I hate that word, but to make friends or do a lot of stuff. It caused more chaos, than just not doing it. And I've always been a very self-reflective, I love learning person, but there's only so much growth you can do when it's a very toxic environment. But we would go through, and even him, for that was 4 or 5 months, and we had this like one summer, and it was quest to be Northwest, as in we're going to embrace
Okay.
that we live in the Northwest. And so we went hiking and got bikes, and we did that type of stuff to try to, I don't know, explore. So it's not that we weren't learning. I just feel as though there was a cap. And I just remember so distinctively that first time I walked into a meeting post us like going through the split. And I was like, finally, I know I can do it. And I'm going to dive all the way in, and I'm going to get a sponsor, and I'm going to do this deal for the first time legitimately. Because again, you got to remember the first time it was the nudge from the judge, but I still didn't think I had a problem, but I really enjoyed being sober, but there was no actual work done besides, what you learn at IOP. So I just knew in that time, it was kind of like an uphill battle, I was
Yeah.
miserable and all that good stuff.
Oh, that good stuff. It's interesting.
Miserable and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think of like the earlier interventions to where, I had this other guy on the podcast many moons ago, a good buddy of mine, Scott, and he said when he was 17, he went on a high-speed chase from the police and he was drinking. And he said he sat in front of a judge then, and the judge said, "You're like, I don't know if he used the words that you're an alcoholic, but he was like, you have a problem with drinking." And then, 30 years went by and the judge knew it at the time. But the thing is about this is that doesn't always check the box as to where we realize it and become willing to do what we need to kind of stay on this path. But even with your earlier interventions in IOP and going to AA meetings, it's, I really picked up on that you said you didn't really identify with having a problem. You knew it was creating consequences for your life, but maybe the hope was you could kind of manage this, if these other things come in.
Grow out of it, really.
How does the rest of like the pandemic days unfold? I mean, you were mentioning to me about the DoorDash. Does that start during this too, where you're ordering stuff?
Yes. Oh, and I was, okay, it came back to me. I could say I was a functional alcoholic, which I think is a little bullshit. I do not think that is really ever, no one's ever really functioning. But I think that's where I could separate. Like, yes, it causes chaos. I shouldn't do it. I need to moderate it. I honestly, when you talk about that badge of honor, I'm like, I'm an alcoholic. Yep. I'll figure that out. 2013, that became my new identity, right? Like, claim it. That's cool too. And so I would say I'm an alcoholic and I would say all these things, but at the end of the day, I'm still doing well at work. Again, what would I have done if I hadn't relapsed or hadn't been drinking or, all these types of things? I still looked good on paper. And so then it became this whole thing like, oh, again, it's my dad or my son's dad's fault. Like if he's out of the picture and I've been working on myself and I'm doing all these things, then I should be able to do it, even if I don't really want to do it, It's like, do it when I want to, but, or, again, that it could cause consequences. I felt like I did grow. One of the beautiful things about that marriage is I learned that I actually can stay wildly committed into a relationship. I became a mom, not just to my son, but to my stepkids. And I really turned the page of, I don't need to go out and party all the time. I love being at home and baking and cooking and working my career, raising these kids and doing family outings. And I was getting more involved in church. And so to say that there was no growth in that period is a lie too. I mean, I honestly did grow drastically, but again, I thought, just got to get this denominator out of it. Yeah. And then I should be good. And then again, fast forward COVID times and the divorce. And I realized very quickly that that's not true. Like at some point I started drinking alcoholically and I cannot ever reverse that. My brain knows at 3:00 in the morning that if I just have a drink, that's going to calm it down. And then again, that cycle continues until I pretty much have to go to rehab, detox, or someone hold me down. Otherwise I will just be completely blacked out for days. So the good thing is when I drink, it's fast and it's brutal. There is literally no slow. It is quick and fast. And the beauty of now being involved in AA and all my friends being in AA is they all know within about a minute it's psychotic, like how they know. Like, what? Yeah. Don't tell me my texting was different that quickly. And, I get pulled right back in, but I'm getting a little ahead of my story. So long story short, oh, go ahead.
Well, it just sounds like I'm picking up on it. Kind of one of the things I mention here a lot on the podcast is this thing that was told to me when I was in rehab at 17 for the first time. Wherever you go, there you are. And at the time I was like, oh, you guys, I mean, I don't know what you guys are talking about, whatever, I'm doing well.
Right.
And and I take that into so many different areas, but I think it's a lot of like what you're touching on, right? I think that's so common way of thinking on this journey is that I'm drinking this way because of this or because of that. It could be so many different things. And then we find ourselves not in those situations anymore. And we're drinking the same, if not worse. And then it's like, okay, now what
Right.
is it? Now
Yeah.
what do I need to do? But you also brought up sort of that high functioning, measuring kind of our drinking levels with, am I showing up to work? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? Okay. Everything looks pretty good. I always think of it as like the sports team on paper that's supposed to win it all. And then they
Right.
lose in the first round of the playoffs. And it's like, how did this happen? And it's like, it just did. It just does, looking good on paper for everything I don't think always translates to how we feel about ourselves on the inside.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. And again, I just go back to, and this is kind of, I guess, like my message for anybody, like whether I drink alcoholically or not, which again, I do, disclaimer, I do very much so,
Yeah.
but it doesn't bring anything good in my life at all. And so I can look back on manageable times, like early on or different things. And I just think like, it's kind of like if you go to the gym all the time and you can't get in control of your eating habits, like, yeah, you might look better, but like how much better could you look and how much more effective will your workout be if you actually just ate like you should, right? They always actually say that 80% your nutrition, 20% your workout. I feel like
Mm.
that's the whole thing with alcohol for so many people. And again, the functioning alcoholic or the person that's trying to moderate, to me, that's a torture. I saw somebody say it once and it stuck with me, but it's like to think about having to manage your alcohol is abstinence is just so much easier. Maybe not at first, but in the long term, it's like
Yeah.
just get rid of it versus like, okay, I can drink on Thursdays or Fridays, or I better stop at 5 p.m. on Sunday because I got work. Oh, and then you're just all consumed with it. It sounds horrible. I would never want that.
Yeah. Which is so interesting, kind of. I mean, for people that are there, like, I get it. I think in one way or another, it's kind of part of the process. Like, I think that a lot of us, I can't say everybody, but I think a lot of us are just trying to keep the dream alive. Like, can I get to a spot again, how it was in the beginning, to where I felt so free, but there wasn't any consequences. This wasn't negatively impacting my life. But the problem or the beauty of life is the older you get, the more responsibility that you have, as opposed to when we're 20. I mean, we can just hang out, for some
Yeah.
of it. And then as you get older, it's like, okay, there's more stuff that comes up. But yeah, I mean, I've seen that stuff too. Here's 5 moderation tips, like eat before you go, do this, have water in between, do that. And I'm like, does it not cross anybody's mind just to not drink? It's almost kind of like the new, it was Dr. Oz there on the new recommendations or the new dietary. And it was like, don't have
Right.
alcohol for breakfast, and alcohol helps people socialize. And I
Yeah.
understand that. I'm not like an anti-alcohol like thing, like at all, but I'm just saying, as a society, have we lost our way to socialize sober? Like,
Yeah.
why can't we do that? I mean, I do that. I have like an incredible time doing it. I don't become a different person. I remember everything I talked about. Of course, there are times where it's a little bit awkward, but it gives me the opportunity to grow and to like learn new things. But I'm like, man, have we lost touch with connecting without drinking? It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, I think 100% we have, and it's the easy button. And there is a lot of socially uncomfortable people. Right? I was a well, it's weird because I was actually very outgoing like my whole life. I think, again, it was just a perception of what I thought people thought about me. But yeah, it takes time to adjust, but not really. I mean, it happens pretty quickly. And I'm the same, whoop, whoop, like sober.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm probably
Yeah.
not like totally dropping it on the dance floor, mostly because again, I'm 44 and I can't do that. I don't have the
Yeah.
alcoholic limber, but it's like even through my relapses, I always laugh. So every Seahawks game I've ever gone to, and I've gone to a lot, I've been sober. Ironically, through all the time, I've always been
Yeah.
sober at a Seahawks game. And one time in previous relapse, I had Seahawks tickets like in the future. And I actually went to opening day, and I was in a special like Toyota suite or whatever. And there's free alcohol everywhere. And I didn't even think about it because I'm sober, and I had a great time. And then I relapsed, and I was thinking about these tickets I had in 2 months. And all I kept thinking is, how am I going to go to the Seahawks game sober? I can't go sober to a Seahawks game, even though the 20 other times I've gone is sober. But that's what the alcohol does to you. As soon as you start drinking or, whatever, it convinces you that all of a sudden you need something that you've been completely content without having. Sorry, it was kind of a tangent on relapse versus just people trying to moderate, but
yeah, no, I mean, I love it. It switches, like the things switch when you go back to drinking too. How do things look and feel for you moving forward from here?
So moving forward, because I talk a lot, and let's get to the nitty gritty. But long story short, back in July of 2021 is where I found my people. And this is the beautiful part of my story, even though there's a lot of chaos that still happens after that. But I got really involved once again after another confrontation, or, hey, I see you're drinking again. Didn't want to go back to AA at all. I'm like, I've tried it, even though I barely tried it. I've tried it and it doesn't work and da-da-da-da-da. But it was all I knew. And God had a big plan. And I met my best friends to this day. That very pretty much first meeting. And it was the first time I feel like I gave it my all. I was all in. Travis was what I thought all in. Can look back now and go, wow, I think he might have been high the whole time, but I didn't know it at the time. Everybody always laughs at me. I never seem to know if people are drinking or high around me, even though I'm in the rooms, just like oblivious. But we were doing the deal, and I had basically at that point in my recovery said, I'm not going to make another person my higher power. I am going to stay sober for me no matter what, whether they're sober or not. I'm not, I kind of drew that line in the sand, and it was very slow. And that's one thing I used to talk about all the time. I just went back and I was like, whatever, I'm just going to do it for a year. Even if I'm drinking or not drinking, I'm just not going to quit AA. I'm just going to try it, do something different. I was like grumpy, and I'd say that at meetings, like, I'm just here because I don't know what else to do. And honestly, it wasn't even a bottom. If I could say there was any manageability in my drinking in the last 10 years, it was probably those couple months. It really wasn't like how I described earlier. I mean, there's moments, but for the most part, it was okay. I wasn't in trouble. My mom just was like, hey, I could tell you're drinking. You should go back. And that's when the miracle happened, was that time. Again, I've had a lot of miracles since, and my sobriety story is definitely not linear, and it wasn't a continuous amount of sobriety since then, but the shift in who I am and what I want, that shifted. And so pretty much I think I had about 9 months, and I realized Travis was not sober, and we had some discussions about our future and all that, and he finally admitted he had a problem, and I thought everything was good. I could already feel myself choking up. I tell the story all the time. I don't actually. But fast forward a month, and he did not make it. And I found him downstairs, and he had overdosed and was on life support for about 5 days until we had to pull the plug. And I stayed sober through that. That to me, that was like the biggest miracle of all. And I had this whole tribe of people that surrounded me. And I remember going to a meeting. We hadn't actually pulled the plug yet, where he was doing organ donation. And it was a Sunday, but I wanted to go to the meeting, and it was Memorial Day, and everybody was doing sober softball, and they all drove back early. And I walked into this meeting, and it was like packed out with people. And she said, I have not cried about this in a long time. Stupid.
It's all good. It's all good.
No, I also haven't really talked in detail about it for a long time either. Anyways, I was like, I have people who really like love and care about me. And then I went on a crusade of telling, I was doing speaker meetings and all this stuff and trying to just like save a soul. That's always been my thing. If I could just save one person in my mixed up, crazy, not perfect, sober story, then I want to do that. And that I was telling you earlier, like that's when my TikTok kind of took off. But then it got really depressing. It was like, it's hard to sit in that and talk about that all the time. And it was a lot of delayed grief. I just was trying to find purpose in it. I didn't understand how a guy, in my opinion, that was perfect every other way. I was the first guy that treated me like a queen. And my son called him dad, Travi dad, and loved him. Like, I don't understand why him. And so that was very confusing for me. But I had to grasp on, I wasn't going to be mad at God this time. I already did that. I was like, been there, done that with my dad. I'm going to make sense of this and heal the world. And so I just did that. And then, as you can imagine, that's a lot of burden and stuff to carry. And so one day, again, that simple, we should have some tequila. I mean, I was literally doing a speaker meeting in 3 days. Yeah. One of the meetings I was so excited about, the creme de la creme of speaker meetings. I felt like I had arrived in my sobriety and I was so excited.
Yeah.
And I threw it all away. And through that, there's a lot, on, off. Yeah. And the biggest common denominator is men, like I've talked about. Not that it's their fault, but I can, we talked about a little bit of people not having responsibilities. And when I feel like somebody's supposed to be sober and they're not, it pisses me off. Like, why do I? Because I have the kid and I have the house and I have the career and I have all the stuff. I'm the one that has to not do that. And you can just gallivant all over. And then I get pissed. And then I say, screw it. And then I finally just had that realization, like, why am I doing that for my life that's so beautiful? To like, it was the first time I realized resentments lead to drinking. Like, really, like, understood, like, oh, if I carry resentment, within a, whatever, I'm going to drink. And so I worked freakishly hard on that over the last year because I do not want to go back. I've done this again. I'm a grown adult, sadly, at this point in my life. Doesn't seem like it sometimes, but I am. And I cherish my life so much. It is wildly beautiful today. And I am so happy just in my own skin now. And so that was that one piece I think I just really didn't ever want to address or be told, no, you can't date that person. Because again, that childhood side of me was like, I deserve these men and I want them to fawn all over me and tell me I'm worthy. And then I finally just was like, you need to find worth within, by yourself. And that's what I've got today. Thank God.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that too. With the TikTok, were you sharing your experience with Travis in that as part of it? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And just, there's two things that I hate in the world. I mean, there's a lot. I hate fentanyl. But I hate kratom. That I feel like it was a gateway. I don't know your thoughts on kratom, but to me, he would always try to supplement with kratom, and it weirdly made me more irritated than heroin. And then eventually the fentanyl that it was laced with. I think back then it was still not guaranteed. It was 100% fentanyl, like it is today. So I was just on a rampage. Like, if I see a kratom sign outside a gas station, it is everything within me to not go kick it down and scream.
Yeah. Is that a thing where you live? I mean, here in Canada, not that I know of, I've never seen kratom for sale. Like, I don't know if that's...
Oh, it's everywhere.
In the US, that's it. So where you're at, yeah. I heard some states are moving towards banning it, but then they changed the chemical slightly and whatever. It just seems to be like they kind of figure out a system, but it's everywhere where you're at. You just walk in and buy kratom.
Yeah, every vape shop, every gas station, it's in drinks now, and there's a lot of people that just insist it's fine, but it's synthetic heroin for, I was about to say all intents and purposes again.
I have heard that though. I mean, I knew somebody really close to me too that they were in the US and they got hooked on this kratom stuff, ordering stuff from Russia and all kinds of stuff. And kind of when they got sober too, like, I mean, the cupboard's filled with this stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think that is a thing. I mean, I'm not overly like familiar with it, but I definitely see it as something that's keeping people around. There's withdrawal symptoms from it. It's serious and
serious withdrawal symptoms. I've never taken kratom. I just have experience with other friends that would insist that they were sober when they did kratom. And then when they stopped and again, had horrible withdrawal symptoms, they go, yeah, I was lying to myself. I knew that I wasn't sober. It's easily accessible here. So I don't know. It's a big pet peeve. So anyways, I went on a whole thing with that. And also just look at me, it's probably ego. Look at me. I stayed sober during traumatic times. You never have to drink again. And so that was my platform as well. And then obviously I didn't make good decisions.
Yeah. And which kind of puts you probably in a difficult spot too, right? Because you have, I would imagine, people looking up to you for the message of things, and then things are going, well, and then life happens, and then you're in this different direction of things. And then maybe that's internalized of how you feel about yourself and how there's so many layers and dynamics there. And then I think what I've picked up on consistently in one way or another in the episode is like like worthiness, right? You mentioned too, like putting it in others, like the way that they saw you and the way that they treated you and how that all played out. And I mean, maybe even work. I know that's relatable for some people, right? Their self-worth is how much money they make or, how many hours they work or all of that. So the career. And I think, at the end of the day, like that can leave us feeling empty, because will it ever be enough? I know for somebody like me, it doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. I mean, X amount of dollars, this or that, everybody else, like it'll never be good enough. And for me, I had to get to that point too, where I had to be good enough for me. And all of the flaws and everything that, I'm not the best at and I'm not great at. I had to find a level of acceptance, and it kind of, I pick up on that too with that kind of last share you had. And that's something you've worked, it sounds like, a lot in this last year.
Yeah. I think, they always talk about the alcoholic, the big ego, low self-worth. And I knew that early on. And I think that was the part that confused me in recent years, is because I actually did feel like, people go, you don't have to date the bottom of the barrel. I'm like, I know that, I know I'm a catch. Like, I understand that logically. I think there's just, again, that wounded child, not to be all hippy dippy, but there's something in me that still craves that. And earlier this year, I always laugh. I said I read the book. I think I read like a chapter, but it was date yourself or be alone. I mean, it was like, what's something, I can't even remember. But the gist I got out of it was about dating yourself, even in a relationship. Make sure you're constantly taking care of you. And I just was like, I'm already independent, but I'm like, I want to be like, sorry to interrupt myself. One thing they said is, if you were told, like if someone says, are you okay with never dating again for the rest of your life? How do you feel about that statement? That was the big key takeaway. And I remember thinking, I'm actually pretty happy alone, but like forever, I mean, that's forever, ever. I don't know about that. And it basically stated that unless you're totally like, I'm going to be okay with it, then you probably have some self-growth. And I'm at the point where I actually am okay with it. It's not what I want for my life, because I believe in love and I think I have another 45, 50 years and I want someone to take care of me when I'm really old and broken. But I feel like I really am okay with being alone. And so people go, are you dating? No. Like, why not? I'm like, well, just because you're single doesn't mean you have to date. Like, it's not just a open door to say I'm out dating. If something comes along that is in alignment with me and adds value to my life, I'm open to it. But that was the catalyst. And so this year, it wasn't even just like doing step work and like working on myself. It was gardening and landscaping and digging and all this manual labor and pressure washing and just being super content, you know? Mm-hmm. Yes, I still want a man to get up on my roof. It scares me and it needs to get clean. But if I can do it myself, I'm doing it. And it was just super satisfying. And I just felt really connected to God out there. You know, a lot of people are in nature and doing that. And I'm just super happy with myself. And I read the Bible last year, the whole Bible. It's excruciating, but I did it.
Yeah. That's
so
cool.
I just doing a lot of that kind of stuff. And I just woke up one day, I'm like, oh, okay. I think I've healed a little bit. Always a work in progress, but I'm good.
Yeah, that's great. And maybe that too is like rebuilding or reconnecting with our identity of like, you know, the stuff we love to do. I mean, everything you listed off there, I'm like, man, that's like a perfect day for me. Mm-hmm. You know, power washing and doing the gardens. I'm like, man, I'm on cloud 9. Like, I don't want anything more in the summer months than just to have some time doing those things. It brings so much joy and content. As to where my other life, it had to be extremes, right? I had to be going here, going to the nice place or this or that. And now I just find the most joy in like, can I just cut the grass for like 30 minutes? Like, why do you always want to cut the grass? I'm like, it's like the most peaceful thing for me to do in my life. I love it. Put on some music and do that.
Yes. People go, oh, you like to like the fruit of gardening, you know, with like vegetables. I'm like, kind of. That's not actually what I love. My most favorite part of the whole year was literally me digging huge gardens in the ground because I didn't have money or tools to build garden beds. And I finally was thinking, I have a half acre. Like, I'm just going to dig it in the ground. Why am I waiting? And doing all that and the tilling and pulling weeds. So if I'm ever discontented or feeling off or depressed or stressed or freaked out about finances, I just go in my backyard and do some work and I feel better.
Yeah. Beautiful. You had mentioned too, I think you said 3 days away from like a year on this stretch of things too.
17th.
So 2 days away.
2 days. But by the time this airs, yay.
Yeah, which is great. I really appreciate you jumping on here and sharing your story. I feel will be relatable to many of, you know, time here and time there. And we talked a little bit too. And everybody could share something different, their experience. But I really think you do pick up, you know, some things. It was always mentioned to me of like planting seeds. And I went to rehab when I was 17 and things didn't work out. And I did this program and I went to my first AA meeting. I did the steps at 18 and didn't work out then either. And I was like, well, when is it ever going to work out? And I had this one counselor and he said, you know what? This is all planting seeds. You keep watering them and the people around you will water them and surround yourself with good people and you'll get some water on these seeds. And then like the day I got sober was never the play or the plan or, you know, in on the bingo card for that day, but that's the way it played out. And I really think it was a buildup of sort of everything else that I had done that I thought, oh man, that didn't work. You know, that didn't work and church didn't work and Celebrate Recovery didn't work and rehab didn't work and this didn't work. But I think everything was working, just maybe not right the second I wanted it to work. And I hear that in kind of a lot of people's stories of, you know, very rare, I think, kind of referred to as dinosaurs out there of somebody who's like, okay, I'm quitting drinking today and that's it. And
never look back.
Story is never look back. Like, I feel like that's kind of like the dinosaur story.
I'm always like, you're not a real alcoholic then. Well, maybe cut that out. But I'm like, what?
We'll put that on the funnies, the extended version. Any closing thoughts that you would like to mention or leave anybody with, you know, if they're struggling to get or stay sober?
Honestly, there's one last piece that kind of had left off, but I think just keep trying things. I mean, you just touched on it. I've tried everything. And I think, honestly, each piece has helped me. And it does helped me to grow. But this last year, it wasn't AA's fault. I was just like, been there, done that. That's not working. And so this last year, I literally went to one meeting a week. That's it. And I was just like, whatever. I'm doing church, reading my Bible, still trying to figure things out. And then one day I took a service position back in November. And then all of a sudden, I'm being of service. I go to 4 or 5 meetings a week. I'm on a new AA pink cloud. I have a new sponsor. I'm pumped. And I thought, you know what? Maybe that was God's plan for me, get me pink clouding in the time where I usually kind of struggle, and now push me back past it. And so I feel like God is just with me this time, so hand in hand. And it's so exciting to like look over and be like, God, are you like right here? Are we doing this miracle thing together? This is cool. I'm here for it. Your will, not mine. But a lot of people could have judged me for this last year and said, you should go to more. You need to do this. And just kind of stay true to yourself while also taking, advice and feedback. Be open to that. But everyone's journey is different, and you got to find what works for you. And at the end of the day, if you get 24 hours sober and another 24 hours sober, I'm proud of you. Just keep doing that and figure it out.
Yeah. Beautiful way to wrap things up, sort of maybe some of the differences, and things you're plugging into this time. And I think there's so much truth to that too, like to find whatever it is that's going to work for you to stay on this track. And I think build some connection and community and talk with people that are relatable. But like you mentioned too, like I see a lot of people, especially when they join our online community, like they'll attend both meetings every day for like 2 months. And then they'll maybe cut back a little bit. And I think people get this sort of general message of like, now you're not doing it right. And I always say, you just have to be honest with yourself. Maybe that's where you're at. And if you're being, really honest with yourself, then that's where you're at. But I don't think there's anything that says if you do 2 meetings every day, you're guaranteed X result. And there's nothing that says if you don't do anything, you're guaranteed X result. Like it's going to be different, journeys, different paths, but don't miss out on the part where you're kind of feeling a slip or a slide or a drift. And then it's like, okay, I don't need to go. And so we just have to look within on that. Thank you again so much.
Thank you so much, Brad. Loved it.
Yeah. And have a good one.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
Well, there it is. Another incredible episode here on the podcast. Huge shout out to Tanya. Thank you so much for jumping on and sharing your story with all of us. If you haven't left a review yet on Apple or Spotify, what are you doing? Jump over there, leave a review, tell people how much you love the show. If you made it till the end here, you must love the show. And I hope to see if you plug into the Just Between Us podcast. I think it'll give you a better understanding of who I am, maybe why I'm so passionate about this work, and why this is what I do 24/7 every day for the last 8 years here virtually, I guess. But I've been working with people trying to get and stay sober for the last 14 years in one way or another, from rehab to detox to medical clinics to outpatient clinics to different programs here locally, and then, virtually mentorship in the community and the podcast, and so many fun opportunities. And I just love doing it. It's not always easy work, not always easy at all. This is very difficult for a lot of people. And there's a lot riding on it. There's a lot to lose if this doesn't work out for some people, depending on where they're at in their journey. But it's where I'm at. It's what I love to do. So would love to see you guys plug into something and get to know you a little bit more. Thanks for hanging out as always, and I'll see you on the next one.